Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. As U.S. coronavirus cases cross 42,000, we've now become the country with the second highest recorded active cases, headed, it seems, unfortunately, towards number one. And at this moment, President Trump is very obviously indecisive and losing his nerve. And millions of lives are on the line because of it. Remember, we are here in this frightening situation because in the 2 months the U.S. and the White House had to prepare for the virus, the president was concerned about the economy and the stock market and chiefly his own re-election chances. Less than a month ago, he told us the virus was going to, quote, disappear. Just 17 days ago, his top economic advisor said the virus looks relatively contained. The administration did not get adequate personal protective equipment for medical professionals like masks and gloves and gowns. They ignored explicit warnings about shortages of those things, of ventilators and other medical supplies. They did not do adequate testing. They created a test that didn't work, stopped other people from pursuing their own. And the result is that the United States has been the international laggard in testing. We are ramping up finally now. All of that combined allowed for what is one of the worst outbreaks in the world in terms of the rate of growth, if not the worst. And so now that we have one of the worst outbreaks in the world in absolute terms and rate of growth, in order to forestall serious doom and death, we've had to shut down enormous parts of the economy, which has obviously caused massive human misery and economic dislocation because we missed our chance to do something better earlier. And now, after about a week of that economic dislocation, as we continue to climb up the exponential curve of cases and of deaths, the president is now listening to voices on the right that say, really, what's a million seniors when you're thinking about the whole economy? That's slightly caricatured, but only slightly. Because there's a growing chorus of voices on the right saying the benefit of keeping people alive is not worth the cost to the economy.
Our ruling class and their TV mouthpieces whipping up fear over this virus, they can afford an indefinite shutdown. Working Americans can't. They'll be crushed by it. You know that famous phrase, the cure is worse than the disease? That is exactly the territory we are hurtling towards.
There was a viral Medium post making basically that argument, and now right-wing law professor Richard Epstein, who's circulating a version of the idea that the cost is not worth the benefit. I should note, this has been a central conservative right-wing idea forever. It's the same reason there are arguments for why we don't need clean air regulations, even if, tens of thousands of people die every year from lung disease from additional pollution. It's just that now it's being applied in this extreme case in the midst of a global pandemic and a growing exponential curve. And then it got to the president, clearly. Last night, the president tweeted, all caps, quote, "We cannot let the cure be worse than the problem itself. At the end of the 15-day period, we will make a decision as to which way we want to go." He then retweeted multiple requests from random Twitter users like Steph93065 to send people back to work. One person in the administration who has consistently and publicly urged more action to stem the spread of the virus is the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Anthony Fauci. But now the New York Times reports, quote, Trump has become frustrated with Dr. Fauci's blunt approach at the briefing lectern, which often contradicts things the president has just said. And this morning, Fox News host Laura Ingraham tweeted, quote, "A global recession would be worse for our people than the Great Depression. Doctors provide medical treatment and cures. They should not be the determinative voices in policymaking now or at the end of 15 days. It's probably worth pointing out Dr. Fauci was not at this evening's White House press conference, an ominous sign to many about the president and his relationship to scientific advice. But here's the thing. It's not a question of if the economic shutdown is absolutely brutal for Americans, for our fellow citizens, for our economy. Of course it is. It's just that those on the right in the business world talking to Donald Trump are just misreading what the choices are right now. There is no option to just let everyone go back out and go back to normal if a pandemic rages across the country and infects 50% of the population and kills a percentage point at the low end of those infected and also melts down all the hospitals. What kind of economy do you think you're going to have under those conditions? I mean, please just think about this for a second. Are people going to be flying? Are they going to be going to Disney World? Are they going to be going to restaurants and bars? Are you going to be able to run a business if 2/3 of your staff get sick when the virus comes whirring through your workplace and mounting horror stories come out of hospitals every day? And maybe it goes through the places of where people maintain the grid or the water treatment system. As the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom orders a countrywide lockdown for the next 3 weeks, after resisting the idea, the President of the United States appears to be just considering the opposite. Okay, enough of that. Let's take our chances with the virus. The Associated Press reports as the coronavirus crisis threatens his presidency and upends his campaign for re-election, Trump is rapidly losing patience with the medical professionals who have made the case day after day the only way to prevent a catastrophic loss of life is to essentially shut the country down. We find ourselves in the situation we are partly because Donald Trump delivered us here, and now all indications are that he is very seriously considering making it much, much, much worse.